It started with silence, not war. Inside the Galactic Council's massive chamber, dozens of alien leaders sat in curved rows, watching the center floor. The lights above glowed cold blue, and the walls shimmered like water, but no one spoke. They were all waiting for the decision, a decision that would change everything. Ambassador Neil Graves stood at the center, tall and calm, his Earth uniform neat and gray. He looked around slowly, meeting every pair of alien eyes, some narrow and reptilian, others wide and glowing, some blinking sideways. Not one of them looked at him with kindness. Behind him, a floating screen showed Earth's image: blue oceans, green lands, clouds, drifting across the surface. To humans, it was home. To the Council, it had become a problem. The chief of the Council, a bird-like creature named Veltric, finally spoke. "The vote is complete," it said, voice metallic and flat. "Earth's membership in the Galactic Concord is revoked permanently." There was a pause, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Neil didn't react, not visibly. He already knew this was coming. He didn't argue, didn't shout. He just nodded once, quietly. And then he walked outside the chamber. Dozens of human officers were waiting. Some looked shocked, others angry, but none surprised. They had read the signs, seen the lies stacking up behind the Council's words. It wasn't just about rules or politics anymore. It was betrayal, pure and planned. The Council had accused Earth of breaking galactic law, of using illegal temporal technology. But humans never did that. It was a lie, made to remove them. Why? Because Earth was growing fast, too fast. Humans were inventing things the others couldn't understand, creating ships that moved in strange ways, making machines that didn't follow the rules of time. And the aliens were afraid, so they planned this betrayal quietly. They removed Earth's trade rights, blocked Earth's research labs, and banned human ships from certain zones. And now, they had kicked Earth out completely. But Earth was ready. They had known this day would come, and they had prepared for it. On the far edge of the galaxy, hidden in a system with 3 suns, the human fleet waited. Thousands of ships, some the size of cities, others shaped like blades or spirals, stood ready. The fleet was led by 2 ships, Dawnkeeper, the command warship, and Echoform, a science dreadnought unlike anything seen before. When Neil returned, he didn't bring anger. He brought orders. Within minutes, Earth's forces cut contact with the Council, pulled their people from alien worlds, and powered up engines not listed in any alien database. As the ships prepared to leave, Earth sent one last message to the Council. No threats, no shouting. Just a line: "We will go where time does not bind us." And then, one by one, the ships vanished. Not through normal jump drives, not even through wormholes. They slipped through something else, something the Council couldn't track, and just like that, humanity disappeared. Some aliens laughed, thinking the humans had run to die in deep space. Others whispered in fear, remembering old human tales of time experiments and quiet warnings. But most simply forgot. The galaxy moved on. New wars began, new alliances formed, and the name Earth became just another story. But for those who saw them leave, they remembered the silence, the way the human ships made no sound, no flash, no roar, just a hum, and then nothing. It felt like time itself had paused to watch them go. And in the heart of that silence, something changed, because from that moment on, the galaxy began to feel different. Strange glitches in long-range scanners, missing seconds during warp travel, echoes of voices and comms that no one could trace. Something was shifting, and those who paid attention knew humans hadn't just left the galaxy. They had left the rules behind, and when they came back, the stars would never tick the same way again. 100 years passed after humanity disappeared. The Galactic Council believed humans had died in some black hole or lost themselves in madness. No one expected them to return, but something strange was happening in the dark corners of the galaxy. Ships sent to explore deep space were vanishing. Sometimes they were found later drifting, empty, or filled with confused crew members who thought only 1 hour had passed, but the log showed they had been gone for 10 years. Others never returned at all. Their last messages were always the same: strange lights, a feeling of being watched, and sometimes the whisper of human voices. The council tried to keep it quiet. They blamed space storms, black holes, or sensor malfunctions, but pilots, scouts, and engineers were whispering something else. Humans are out there, they said, waiting. Veshka, a young alien historian from the Tau-run species, didn't believe in stories. She believed in records, data, and proof. She traveled far from the council worlds to study old human outposts, looking for answers. Her ship, Scholar's Breath, was small but fast. She followed a signal no one else noticed, an old human emergency beacon that had been ignored for decades. The signal came from a dead star system at the edge of the Tressa Nebula. No planets, no life, just cold rocks and silence. But when Veshka arrived, she found something floating near a frozen moon. It was a beacon, round silver and humming softly. Its design was human, but not like any human tech she had studied. It looked old and new at the same time. There were markings on the metal that moved like living ink, shifting patterns that made her dizzy. She brought it aboard her ship, carefully scanning it. Inside was a single message playing on a loop. A human voice spoke clearly. "We are still watching." No threats, no commands, just that one line. It chilled her, because it didn't sound angry or proud. It sounded patient. Veshka checked the energy readings. It wasn't just a simple beacon. It was powered by something that didn't lose energy. Not even after 100 years. It was impossible. She tried to share her discovery with the council, but they ignored her reports. Too busy, too proud, too blind. But the whisper grew louder across the galaxy. More ships began reporting strange experiences, warping through space and ending up in places they didn't chart. Time running too fast or too slow on their clocks, seeing ghostly reflections of their own ships beside them, and always a sense of being observed. Some council fleets tried to chase the signals. They sent dozens of ships into the outer dark, hoping to find the source, but most never came back. The few that did told the same story. They had followed a signal, saw a human ship far away, strange in shape, glowing faintly. When they approached, their engines failed, their weapons didn't work, and their crew fell unconscious. Then they woke up back at the edge of the galaxy, with no memory of how they returned. The council grew nervous, not because of what was happening, but because they were no longer in control. They had built their power by removing Earth, by silencing humans, but now the silence was speaking back. One day, a scout ship named Piercer's Edge was exploring a rift near the old human border. They found something impossible, a station floating in the void, outside known space. Its design was beautiful and terrifying, like it had been woven from stars, and inside was a single room, empty except for a chair. On the chair sat a girl, human, asleep inside a clear pod. She looked peaceful, like she had only just fallen asleep. But when they scanned her, they were shocked. She was not from their time. Her DNA was human, but her ID chip showed a birth date from the year 3120. That meant she came from the future, but she was here now, sleeping in a station hundreds of years old. When one of the crew touched the pod, everything changed. The station lit up. The stars around them flickered, and a soft hum filled space. A pulse spread across the galaxy, fast, quiet, and impossible to stop. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and across the stars, ships began to appear. Ships with human signatures, waking up from wherever they had been hiding. Massive vessels shaped like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Long, silent, glowing, with energy not from this time. The humans had returned, not with noise or war cries, but with silence, technology beyond understanding, and a presence that bent time itself. They didn't speak. They didn't send messages. They simply waited, watching, and every ship that came close felt something they couldn't explain: fear, awe, and the knowledge that the humans had not just survived, they had changed. They had left the galaxy behind, and they had brought something back with them. Something the Council could never control. Time no longer followed them, and now the rest of the galaxy would learn what that meant. Captain Owen Lorne was a calm man, known for doing his duty without questions. He served the Galactic Council for over 20 years, commanding the scout cruiser Silver March. It wasn't a warship, it was built for speed, exploration, and quiet missions into unknown space. But this time, his orders were strange. He was told to take the Silver March to the edge of the Trasin Nebula, near a strange rift that had appeared. No one knew what the rift really was. Some called it a tear in space. Others thought it was a time echo. But all the Council knew was the sensors picked up an old human signal from that area. Owen had heard the stories, whispers about strange disappearances, odd time loops, and ghost ships. But he didn't believe in ghost stories, he believed in facts, so he took his ship and his crew and headed straight into the unknown. The Trasin Nebula was a mess of red clouds, crackling with silent lightning and charged energy. Even the best scanners failed in that area. Still, Owen pushed forward. Then they saw it. Floating near a broken moon, locked between two gravity waves, was a ship. It didn't look like any ship they'd seen before. It was silver and dark at the same time. Shaped like a blade twisted into a spiral, it looked frozen, unmoving, but the engines were warm, and the name on the side glowed in soft blue. Solace. Owen's crew ran scans. The ship had no weapons online, no shields and no life signs, but something was still powering it. Against the Council's warning protocols, Owen made the call. "We're boarding," he said. A small team suited up and crossed over. The moment they entered the human ship, things changed. The lights flickered, not because they were broken, but because they were moving in patterns, like breathing. The walls were smooth, no bolts or panels. Like the whole ship was grown, not built. One of Owen's engineers, Mina, touched the wall and gasped. She said she felt a heartbeat. Another crew member, Jarek, screamed suddenly. He said he saw his own younger self walking down the hallway, but when they turned the corner, nothing was there. Time was not working properly inside Solace. Clocks on their suits started ticking in reverse, then fast-forwarded, then stopped completely. One crewman sent a report to the Silver March, but it arrived 10 minutes before he sent it. They moved deeper inside and found a central chamber. There was a glowing pod in the middle of the room. Inside it, floating in stasis, was a young human girl, maybe 18. She had long dark hair, peaceful eyes, and she looked like she had just fallen asleep. But when they scanned her ID chip, the shock hit everyone. Her identification came from the Earth Archive, dated over 700 years in the future. How could someone from the future be here, in a ship that looked older than the Council itself? No one touched the pod, not yet. They argued what to do. Some said leave it. Others said bring her back to the Council for study. But then something happened. The ship Solace began to hum, low at first, then louder. Lights moved across the walls like waves, and the air became heavy. Owen stepped forward and lightly touched the side of the pod. That's when everything changed. Outside the nebula, the Silver March recorded a sudden energy spike, so large it was felt across 7 star systems. Then hundreds of small rips appeared. In space, all around them, through those rips, they saw shadows of ships massive, silent and human. Not old human ships, but new ones, shaped like curved wings, floating towers, and living machines. These were not the ships the Council remembered from Earth's past. They were the evolution of centuries hidden in time. Owen and his team were pulled back quickly. As soon as they returned to the Silver March, the human ship Solace disappeared, simply vanishing from space like it was never there. But the rip remained, and through it, they saw more ships slowly waking up, turning their attention toward Council space. No messages were sent, no weapons fired, just a quiet signal that repeated across the stars. It was a sound like a breath, a heartbeat, and a word in the old Earth language. Return. Owen knew then that humanity was not lost. They had not vanished into death or madness. They had grown, hidden where time could not touch them, and now they were coming back, not in anger, not in war, but in silence, with ships that moved through time like it was a sea. And the galaxy was not ready. The galaxy was silent. But in that silence, something powerful had returned. Human ships, hidden for more than a century, were now waking up all around the edges of known space. They didn't look like normal ships. They didn't even move like anything the Council had seen before. Some were shaped like rings spinning inside each other. Others looked like stars trapped in metal frames. They drifted in and out of space, disappearing and reappearing like dreams. Sensors couldn't track them. Weapons couldn't lock on them. And time around them twisted like smoke. One of the first to appear was Infinity's Edge, a ship the size of a small moon. It came from a fold in space near a dead system and floated slowly across the Council border. No sound, no signal, no weapons active. But when a Council fleet moved to stop it, their ships froze in space. Clocks on their dashboards started spinning, and crew members fainted. They weren't attacked, but something had touched their time, and nothing was the same afterward. Another ship, Vow Unbroken, entered from the Black Rift where Solace had once been. It didn't move with engines. It moved like it remembered where it had to go. When it passed by a Council station, the stations, lights flickered, and every data screen showed the same human message. We are not your past. We are your forgotten future. Back on the planet Teleron, the Council held an emergency meeting. Panic had started to grow among the higher members, the alien leaders' lizards. Bugs, birdfolk, and floating minds argued over what to do. Some wanted to reach out and talk to the humans. Others shouted that they should destroy them before it was too late. But the truth was no one knew how. No missile, no laser, no shield worked against these new human ships. It was like they were half here, half somewhere else. The technology was beyond logic. Then, without warning, dozens of human ships entered Council space from different points. They didn't attack. They didn't send demands. They just waited. Their designs were beautiful, and strange ships that shimmered like liquid mirrors. Ships that floated on rings of light, and each one had a different name written on its side in Old Earth language. Names like the Long Silence, Before the First Flame, and Daughters of Tomorrow. The Council finally decided to send an envoy. One ship, carrying 6 diplomats, was sent to speak with the nearest human vessel. As the alien ship approached, it sent a respectful signal, asking for peace talks. The human ship didn't reply. The envoy kept moving forward slowly, but when it crossed a certain point in space, time around them shifted. The crew aged 5 years in a single second. All plants on board bloomed, wilted, and turned to dust, and the ship itself began to rust as if it had existed for centuries. Then it was gently pushed back. No weapon was fired, no impact was felt. It just appeared suddenly far away from the human vessel, intact but stunned. The message was clear: do not cross. And then something strange happened. Out of the folds of light, one ship moved forward. It was shaped like a spear of silver and blue. From it, a single human came forward in a small, glowing pod. She floated toward the nearest Council relay station and stopped just outside the gates. Her voice echoed through the system, not in sound, but directly into minds. She introduced herself simply: Nova Commander Elise Monroe. Her words were calm but full of meaning. You exiled us because you feared what we might become. She said, you were right to fear, but we didn't come to conquer. We came to show you what time truly means. Then she raised her hand, and for a moment, everyone watching saw stars bend. They saw themselves growing old, young, dead, and alive all in 1 second. And then it was gone. She continued. We waited, we watched, and now we offer you a choice. Stand beside us and learn what lies beyond time, or try to fight us and be left behind forever. The Council fell into chaos after her message. Some races began to panic, calling their fleets back. hiding in deep systems. Others begged for communication with Earth, hoping to understand what had happened. But Earth was no longer a planet, it had become something else. Something not bound by gravity or rotation. It was now part of the fold living outside normal. Space, hidden behind a curtain of shifting time. Only a few believed they could still stop the humans. Most knew it was too late. The humans had returned, not with fire, but with control over something greater. They had mastered time itself. And now the galaxy had to face what it once feared. The future that humanity had become. Long ago, when Earth was still part of the Galactic Council, a secret group of humans had already started working on something special. They called it the Anchor. It was not a weapon, not a ship, not even a machine in the normal way. It was a place of living, changing space hidden outside the normal laws of time. Dr. Linda Hawley was the lead scientist. She had once been a teacher on Earth, but now she was building something no one had ever imagined. She believed that time didn't have to move forward. She believed it could bend, twist, even stop if you just understood it well enough. With her was Commander Ryan Locke, a soldier who had fought in the early wars between Earth and the pirate clans near the Orion Verge. He had lost his brother in one of those battles. He hated war, but he believed in humanity's survival. And now, instead of fighting with weapons, he was helping lead a team into the unknown. After the Council betrayed Earth, the human fleet vanished, but they didn't vanish into darkness or chaos. They went to a place near the edge of everything, a space between spaces called the Causality Rift. No alien dared to go there. Sensors failed. Light bent the wrong way, and time sometimes ran backward. But that's where humans built their future. They created the Anchor, a city ship the size of a continent, held together by engines that sang in strange tones. Inside the Anchor, children aged slowly while minds grew faster. 1 hour in the real galaxy could be 1 year inside. They had time to learn, time to build, and time to become more. They built machines that no one could copy, weapons that didn't shoot, but stopped enemies in place by pausing their time. Ships that could dodge attacks before they were fired. Armor that healed wounds by reversing injuries. They called them time blades, phase bombers, and chronostalkers, and these machines didn't look like war tools. They looked like living art glowing. Curves, soft pulses of light, engines that spun silently like they were dreaming. But they didn't use them for war. They used them to grow, to build, and to prepare while the galaxy moved on, forgetting about Earth. The humans watched. They listened to Council broadcasts, watched battles from centuries ago in real time. They even saw the rise and fall of entire alien empires because their tech could see through timelines. They knew more about the galaxy than the Council did, but they waited because they didn't want revenge. They wanted to give the galaxy a choice. Ryan Locke, now a decorated fleet commander in the folded armada, stood inside his ship last light. Looking at hundreds of timelines, he didn't see them as past or future. He saw them as options, paths the galaxy could take. He turned to Dr. Hawley and asked, "Is it time?" She nodded. "The galaxy is breaking itself again," she said. "If we don't show them a new path, they'll destroy everything, including themselves." So they made their move. Small human vessels began appearing near dying stars, war-torn planets and lost colonies, but instead of attacking, they healed. They fixed broken cities, reversed radiation burns, even brought ships back from destruction. In one system, an entire space station that had been shattered was seen rebuilt, floating whole and shining. The galaxy was confused. Aliens didn't understand what the humans wanted. Were they here to punish, to rule? But every time someone tried to strike the human ships, something strange happened. The attacker would blink and suddenly find themselves back before they fired. It was like the moment had never happened. The humans were not fighting, they were editing time, like authors changing a story before it became real. More ships came, carrying teachers, engineers, and strange crystals that grew into buildings in some systems. Time domes were formed where people could spend a day learning skills that took a lifetime in others. Human scouts offered echo recorders that showed people their own future mistakes so they could avoid them. But the humans weren't doing this for everyone, only those who asked, only those who were willing to accept change. Some alien leaders begged for human help, offering tribute and ships, but humans rejected tribute. They only asked one thing: let go of fear and learn. Meanwhile, those who still hated humans started planning attacks. They called them demons, time ghosts, or reality breakers. One fleet, called the Pride of Ages, sent 300 ships to attack a human vessel. But as they arrived, they saw something terrifying, an exact copy of their fleet, already dead and drifting. Their ships, their flags, their crews floating as rust and bone. They had not fought yet, but somehow they had already lost. The message appeared on every screen: your decision was made long ago. That's when the council realized something terrible. The humans hadn't just built better ships, they had learned to walk beside time like a friend. And they had seen this moment coming. They had planned for it. They had prepared for it, and now they were offering peace, not from weakness, but from power the galaxy couldn't understand in Earth. Earth was not Earth anymore. It was now a memory, a myth, and a promise all at once. A place that moved with the stars, watching, waiting. Because humanity had changed, and now time itself answered to them. The council was breaking, not from war, not from weapons, but from fear, confusion, and something they had never faced before, time slipping out of their control. The human fleet had returned without firing a single shot, but already, whole star systems were on edge. All across the galaxy, messages flew from world to world. Some begged for help, some demanded answers, some simply screamed. Leaders of different alien races gathered in secret rooms. They blamed each other, shouted, argued, and panicked. Old enemies pointed claws and fingers. You supported the humans before. You voted for their exile. You should have destroyed them when you had the chance. But no one knew what to do now. Every time a ship tried to approach a human vessel, it lost contact or drifted back to its starting point with no memory. Every time a weapon was powered up, it failed before it could lock on. Some soldiers even reported aging 10 years in minutes, while others swore they had lived entire lifetimes inside a second and returned with memories they couldn't explain. In truth, the humans were not attacking. They were simply removing threats from time before those threats could act. Many races that had once been close to Earth were now rising to speak again. The peaceful Lurians, the tech-loving Solari, even the quiet stonewalkers of Nome. They remembered the kindness of humans, their courage, and their curiosity. Now they saw what humanity had become, and they chose to stand beside them. One after another, ships from these races approached the folded human fleet. This time, they were not stopped. Instead, they were invited in. Some of them vanished for days, then returned changed, wiser, calmer, holding strange crystals and tools that shimmered in and out of sight. They said the humans had shown them the future, not just what would happen, but what could happen if they chose peace. Back on the Central Council world, the panic grew louder. In a last effort to show strength, the Council launched their greatest fleet, the Pride of Ages, built over 2 centuries, carrying over 300 powerful ships. Its commander, Admiral Lorcan, was known as the Iron Fang, a legend in Council wars. He believed that if they showed force, the humans would back down. The Pride of Ages jumped into the sector where a single human ship, Heavenlight, had been spotted. But what they found there was not a battle. It was themselves. Floating in space was a copy of their entire fleet. Exact ships, exact names, same markings, but dead, rust-covered hulls, drifting weapons, and skeletons still in the seats. Admiral Lorcan watched in shock as one of his own soldiers gasped. "That's my ship. That's me," he whispered, pointing at the wreck floating outside the window. They had not even fired a shot, but the outcome was already before them. The future had already shown them what would happen if they chose violence, and it wasn't Survival, a signal appeared on every screen in the pride of ages. No video, no voice, just a simple text. This moment has already happened. You are free to choose again. The Admiral stood frozen, unsure of what to say. He had never lost a battle, but now it was like time itself had beaten him. Back on Havenlight, Nova Commander Elise Monroe watched quietly. She didn't cheer, didn't smile. She simply lowered her hand, and the Phantom fleet faded away into dust on the other side of the galaxy. Alien leaders who heard about the event made their decision. They no longer wanted to fight the humans. They wanted to understand them, learn from them, survive beside them. Soon, the humans offered something called the Temporal Accord, a new peace agreement, not about weapons or borders, but about time. The Accord said, "No species shall use time to destroy. No one shall control the lives of others by bending the past. Knowledge must be shared, and the future must be earned, not stolen." Many species agreed and signed it. Those who didn't found themselves frozen in strange loops. Ships stuck in the same second forever. Cities repeating the same hour again and again. Not destroyed, just paused, waiting until they were ready to grow. The galaxy slowly changed. A new map began to form, not of planets and empires, but of timelines and choices, and at the center of it all, the humans stood not as rulers, but as guides, watching, teaching, offering chances that no one else could give. Humanity had gone far beyond what the galaxy ever expected. They had once been a young race, curious and full of fire. Now they had become something more, keepers of time, guardians of possibility, and they didn't come to punish. They came to give the galaxy a second chance. Even those who once feared them now sent messages filled with hope, because when they looked into the future, they finally saw something worth fighting for. And the humans had already seen that too. The humans did not come to conquer, they came with a choice. And now the galaxy had to decide one by one. The leaders of alien worlds met to discuss the offer piece through the Temporal Accord. The Accord didn't demand land, weapons, or wealth. It asked only this: stop using time as a weapon, stop fearing the future, and begin learning from it. Many species agreed quickly. They had seen what humans could do. Ships repaired in seconds. Diseases reversed. Entire cities aged forward into a better version of themselves. Even gravity could be shaped under human control. But not everyone trusted them. Some believed it was a trick. Some believed that if they waited long enough, they would find a weakness in human power. A few rebel factions, made of warlords and proud old empires, decided to resist. They gathered old fleets and tried to enter human-controlled space. They thought they could catch the humans off guard, strike first, and escape before time was used against them. Their ships entered folded space, a place that had once been full of danger and strange physics. Now it belonged to humanity. The moment they crossed into it, everything changed. Their engines turned quiet, their lights slowed down, and even their thoughts felt heavy. Then their ships stopped, not because of weapons, but because time had frozen around them. From a distance, human observers watched quietly. They didn't attack. They didn't destroy. They simply let the rebels drift inside a still moment, trapped in their own second forever. The message from Earth was clear: we do not destroy. We delay until you are ready to listen. The galaxy finally began to understand. This was not war. This was a higher form of peace, one where violence simply couldn't happen, because the moment of attack would never arrive. Meanwhile, humans continued building something new. Using their mastery over time, they created cities that unfolded like flowers. Stations where students could study a lifetime of knowledge in a single day. Healing centers where the sick walked out younger and stronger. On the edge of the galaxy, one such place was built. A massive floating sanctuary called Havenlight. It wasn't a planet or a base, it was a memory anchor. A living library of the future. Anyone was welcome to enter, but only if they carried peace in their heart. Inside Havenlight, you could walk through timelines, see yourself in 1,000 different futures, learn what your life could be, and then Choose the path you wanted to follow. It became the most visited place in the galaxy, not because of fear, but because of hope. Even the strongest warriors, the coldest leaders, came out of heaven like changed, more calm, more thoughtful, more careful. With time, the galaxy slowly transformed. Instead of rushing into wars, species began sending diplomats and teachers. Instead of building warships, they started building time garden zones where events moved slower so people could think before making big decisions. Trade improved, misunderstandings reduced. People listened more and shouted less because now they had seen the future and they knew what they could lose. But humans didn't stay in one place. They kept moving, always exploring. Some said they were looking for older truths. Others believed they were searching for what lies beyond time itself. Nova Commander Elise Monroe continued to lead one of the main human fleets, but she didn't call herself a warrior anymore. She called herself a guide. She traveled from world to world, speaking to people, not governments. Her message was always the same. We are not here to rule. We are here to remind you. Time is a gift. In one meeting, a child from a distant farming planet asked her, "Can we ever be like you?" She smiled and replied, "No, but you can be something better, your truest self. That is what time is for." That answer spread across stars, printed on walls, spoken in songs, even turned into a galactic festival called the Moment. It was celebrated every year on the day humans first returned. A day to reflect, to pause, and to choose wisely. Some alien philosophers began saying something strange, that maybe humans were no longer completely human, that maybe they had become part of time itself, living between seconds, dreaming between years. But the truth was, they were still the same species. They had just taken a different path. They had once been pushed out of the galaxy, betrayed and alone, and now they had returned not to take revenge, but to offer something more powerful than war. A second chance, not just for themselves, but for everyone. 100 years had passed since the humans returned, but Earth was no longer a normal planet. It wasn't even a place that existed in one spot anymore. Earth had become something different, something greater. It was now a memory node, a place that could appear anywhere in the galaxy. For those who were ready to find it, it was shaped by thought, by intention, by time itself. You didn't travel to Earth by ship. You reached it by understanding, by choice. Inside Earth's folded space, time flowed in waves, not lines. There were forests where every tree remembered who planted it. There were lakes that showed you moments from your past and your future side by side. The stars above were not just stars, but echoes of decisions, and around it all, the human presence was calm and steady. Aliens from across the galaxy came to Earth not to worship, not to trade, but to learn, to ask questions they never had the courage to ask before, to see their own lives in new ways. One of them was Captain Owen Lorne. Now an old man, his hair gray, his steps slower, but his eyes still sharp with memory. He was the first outsider to witness humanity's return, the first to see the ship Solace and the sleeping girl from the future. He had watched the council panic, watched the galaxy tremble, and watched time shift around him. Now, he sat beneath a silver tree on Earth, looking at the stars that moved like thoughts. He had been invited by the humans to stay not as a soldier, but as something new. He had become a history keeper. His job was not to record facts or events. It was to remember the feeling of it all. The fear, the hope, the wonder. Every day, he spoke to groups of young aliens and humans alike. He told them about the time before, when Earth was small. He told them about the betrayal, the silence, and the quiet return. And he always ended his stories with one line: they came back not to win, but to remind us what matters. Human children born in the folded space were different. They learned in timelines, not classrooms. They could walk through their mistakes and change their thinking before acting. They didn't rush, they understood. That patience was power. Their voices were soft, but their words carried weight. And when they looked at someone, it felt like they already knew what that person needed to hear. Galactic academies began using human-built learning crystals. With them, a child could learn to fly a ship, speak 6 languages, and understand philosophy in a single day. But only if their heart was calm. The crystals did not respond to anger or pride. They responded to kindness, curiosity, and peace. Many feared that humans would one day rule the galaxy, but that never happened. The humans didn't build thrones, they built mirrors. They helped others see who they truly were, and gave them the tools to change for the better. One day, a final message was sent from Earth. It wasn't broadcast to everyone, it was sent quietly to the edges of space. To those who had been watching, it said, "We are going deeper." Then, a new kind of ship was launched. It was larger than any before, shaped like a spiral of light and memory. It didn't use engines, didn't leave a trail, it simply vanished. Not into space, but into something beyond. Some believed they had gone to explore the beginning of time. Others thought they had become time itself. No one knew for sure, but they left behind their knowledge, their maps, their kindness, and one final gift, a message recorded by a child half human, half alien. She stood before a room full of diplomats, and she said, with a soft smile, "Time is not a weapon. It is not a cage, it is not something to fear, it is a garden. And we are all gardeners. Grow something good." That message was placed in every station, every ship, every planet that had ever touched human space, and it never grew old. Because by then, the galaxy finally understood. The humans had not returned to lead, they had returned to teach, and now, they had gone again into the deepest unknown, but they had left the door open for anyone brave enough, curious enough, kind enough to follow.